Hi everyone, this is Katrina. I recently presented at Lead 3 in San Francisco on the topic of improving teacher collaboration. This is a screencast of the presentation I gave. The bit.ly is below. You'll need to use the bit.ly to access any of the links in the presentation. The purpose of my presentation is really this. We have a lot of work to do at our schools, and sometimes we look for the quick fix with programs. However, it's the investment in people and common skills that make the difference in student achievement. My presentation will tell about CASEL's Year 1 journey to improve collaboration and promote student achievement by investing in the people and systems at our site. While I'm the messenger, this is the work of an awesome team, and it represents a journey we've started. It's not perfect, but it continues to improve and grow. So here's what we want to talk about in this screencast today. We're going to identify strategies for developing strong teacher leaders. We'll identify strategies for building strong collaboration structures and identify strategies for improving conversations around data. Because this is an hour presentation, I'm going to chunk it into 3 different modules. This section will focus on the first objective, identifying strategies for developing strong teacher leaders. Before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about CASEL. CASEL is a school like many, high poverty, newer staff, diverse, and we've had historically low student achievement. Due to that student achievement, we applied for and were awarded a school improvement grant to focus on turning around the school's performance. Looking at data and resources provided in the grant, we've invested heavily in strengthening leadership and collaboration at our site. By doing this, we're working on sustainability for when the grant period ends, and we're investing on what really gets results, skill set of the people. While we do have a grant and we're provided with some extended collaboration time beyond what the district provides for PLC, any of the tools we discussed today can be scaled back to fit resources at various sites. Next, let's take a look at the research. Looking at collective teacher efficacy, that's really what ties to the idea of collaboration. So Hattie defines collective teacher efficacy as the collective belief of the staff of a school in their ability to positively affect students. And it's not just a belief, it's the actions that come about because of that belief. When we look at the data, a 0.4 for effect sizes is what we call the hinge point. It's about a year's worth of growth, and that's really what we want to look at, something that's at least 0.4 or beyond. Collective teacher efficacy is actually the highest of Hattie's effect sizes with a 1.57, almost quadruple that 0.4. So clearly very high impact, high leverage strategy on student achievement. So considering this, collective teacher efficacy is one of those strategies that can really mitigate the effects of poverty and close the achievement gap. So it's something that we want to pay attention to and figure out how we do it well. And that really is the big question, because it's more than just putting a group of teachers together. It's really equipping them with the skill set to work well and bring out the best in each other. So, looking at strategies to build collective teacher efficacy, at CASEL, we focused on empowering our teacher leaders with the skill set to effectively lead. We've developed clear tools around collaboration, and we've taught our teachers how to interpret and act on data efficiently. We're going to start with step 1, really focusing in on developing strong teacher leaders. When you're looking at investing in collective teacher efficacy and collaboration, a key component is your teacher leader. Teacher leaders maximize collective teacher efficacy by driving results-driven meetings. Some core ideas behind developing strong teacher leaders is really identifying candidates with leadership potential. Another piece is providing clear expectations about that role, building capacity through leadership training and ongoing support, and then providing feedback. So looking at identifying strong teacher leaders, it's really important that I emphasize that you really want your teacher leaders to understand being on leadership isn't a cross to bear. It's really a chance for them to grow as professionals and a chance to improve the overall success and trajectory of the school, and they are critical to the school's success. It's really important to be clear about the expectations and look for certain traits. At CASEL, we really felt that it was important to have a strong classroom teacher who was respected, who would listen to others, who would take feedback, who was a risk taker, who would open their classroom to others, and had a desire to improve outcomes for all students. We actually created a job description with clear expectations about those traits and also the actions we wanted to see. We expected that teacher leaders would facilitate meetings every week during collaboration, that they would lead data analysis and help prepare some of the data for their team. They would organize any release days we had for planning. They would participate in professional learning to grow themselves as leaders, even if that was after school. We would have collaboration 2 times per month after school in the form of our leadership team meetings. And then they would support any school-wide articulation efforts and help lead staff meetings and professional development. We really wanted someone who wasn't the loudest voice, but the person who would mobilize a team and bring out the best in everyone. We actually were able to do an observation and interview for potential lead teacher candidates. Your process may look different, but you must control who sits in that seat. It's really a chance for somebody to learn and grow themselves as a professional as well. So the next piece is really setting that teacher leader or lead teacher up for success. And to do that, we think it's important to have an initial training. Initial trainings are really where you equip your teacher leader to be a strong facilitator. At a minimum, they should include the following. There should be a vision for teacher leaders. I would encourage that you build a vision together, that vision talks about what teacher leaders would want to see themselves doing and what an ideal collaboration, what components would that have. Then that's something you can build professional development around. Also, I think it's important to be clear about the roles and expectations for your teacher leaders, looking at what you want them to do and making sure their team understands their role and what's expected of them. The next piece that's key is helping your teacher leader understand how to establish norms, how to reinforce norms, and really why norms are important. We did an activity with our team during our initial training. We asked each lead teacher to write down their top 3 norms they considered to be important during a meeting. We then had each person share, and we grouped similar norms together. After that, we rewrote the similar norms as a single norm to kind of encompass all the ideas we collectively felt were important. After generating a list of just a few key norms, teacher leaders were asked to take those back to their teams, get feedback, and bring that back to us to revise. From there, we were able to establish a set of school-wide norms that were the same, regardless of the grade level, committee meeting, leadership meeting, etc. So we have that consistency. So that's what worked really well for us. We also talked to our teacher leaders about working with different personalities. We actually did a compass activity. It's a very simple activity for looking at personality traits. It's really important. We need our teacher leaders to be mindful of their personality, understanding what they need to be successful, and really what others on their team, what they're like and what they need to succeed. A lot of times people get frustrated working with each other because they don't understand that, we all see information differently. We all need different things to process information well. So it's important that our teacher leaders have an understanding of that and really understand that each team member brings something unique to the dynamic, and to be really respectful and cognizant of that. It was something that was really effective and eye-opening for our team. A lot of them actually took that and had their team do the activity as well. The next piece we talked about was resistance. So we actually had our team members do a what would you do activity. On one side of the chart, we had a different scenario, different things you might see in a meeting. Somebody saying, this won't work for my kids. Somebody saying, this is too hard for my students, or we can't do anything because the families won't support us. And then on the other side, the teacher leaders came up with a positive way to address that and refocus the conversation. So it was a really good brainstorming activity. And then finally, the last piece is that we practice using the collaboration agenda and protocols. I will say we went over that very quickly. We did a half-day release for our initial training with our teacher leaders. I would recommend a full day so that you can actually not just review the tools for collaboration or data, but have the teacher leaders do mock PLCs and really practice. That will be what we're doing next year. You'll see some initial training activities that I spoke about in the previous slide here. We have our what would you do activity at the top, looking at some possible scenarios and responses, and those scenarios can be tweaked to fit what is needed at your school. We have our Compass Points activity for looking at personal work styles for group and teams. And then we have our norm activity. So now looking at the next piece, we really want to make sure our leads are equipped to facilitate effectively right out of the gate. Several of our teacher leaders are newer teachers and they don't have the experience of leading teams, and we really wanted to build their capacity going in. So to ease them into their role as facilitator, we provided a gradual release model for the collaboration piece. Began with the first collaboration, the coach or admin would model ideal facilitation of collaboration and the lead would take notes. During the second meeting, both teacher leader and coach or admin would facilitate. And then in the third meeting, we would have the teacher leader facilitate independently with the coach providing feedback at the end, just privately. In a few cases, we had teacher leaders who weren't as strong and they actually did a couple of co-facilitation. So the process looked a little longer depending on the need of the teacher leader. This is something we were able to do because of our grant and having embedded collaboration time during the day in addition to our weekly professional learning community time. However, this is something again that's scalable. If you have a coach, admin, and AP, each person could take ownership of a team and follow this process. And just start with 3 teams, which is something that Impact Teams does. If you spend a little bit more time equipping your teacher leaders and having them do mock PLCs and those initial trainings, you can have those people that are stronger go ahead and begin their facilitation and then just have admin support like the coach or AP and the principal work with the teams that aren't as strong. So just think of ways you can scale this back and really think about what teams need this gradual release model. The next piece that's really important is providing feedback, the ongoing support with feedback. We know that it's critical to go through classrooms, do walkthroughs, and leave feedbacks to improve teaching practice, but it's also important to do this for our lead teachers as well. We need to give them feedback on their facilitation and on their leadership strategies. I have a few scripts here that are just general, but they're effective to just quickly use to debrief from a meeting. It's important that you're sitting in on those meetings so that you can kind of see situations that you can give feedback on for your teacher leader. In cases where I have leaders that aren't as strong, a lot of times I'll give them feedback or a discussion before a meeting and help them work through issues they anticipate coming up in their collaboration. So just kind of keep in mind the idea of differentiated support with your different leads. And here's a quick scenario with feedback. Teacher leader A is facilitating a discussion about backwards mapping. Teacher B is staring out the window, twirling her hair. We could call her Mary Millennial. The team continues the discussion without participation from teacher B. What feedback would you give your teacher leader? So you can create some scenarios like this and work with an AP or a coach to talk about feedback you might give to help improve collaboration. The next piece I want to talk about is how to build your teacher leaders through ongoing support with leadership team meetings. Leadership team meetings can provide time for leads to support each other, learn, and solve school-wide problems. It's not really a time where you want to preview the staff meeting agenda or just give out nuts and bolts information. That can be done other ways. And on this slide, there are several strategies to use your leadership meetings to build efficacy. At Castle, we have a standard agenda with timed components for each section, so we know that we're spending the majority of our time on what's important. We go through a successes and challenges section where leads go around and they share what's working well and what's not working, and they problem solve for each other. We have a section that goes over school-wide data and also our school priorities, and we get feedback on those areas. We have a section for professional development where we might go over an article, we might do a mini PD, we might talk about a leadership strategy or an instructional strategy. We do a quick update section that's about 5 minutes, and then we do a wrap-up, looking at what key messages our leads will take back to their team. Anyway, there's lots of strategies on this slide, but keep in mind, really think about your leadership meetings and how you can leverage those. And that is the end of our portion on building strong teacher leaders. The next section will discuss step 2, building strong collaboration structures. Thanks for listening.